and welcome to Superfan Chats, the show where we get to nerd out about our favorite podcast, No Small Roles. Yay!
Yay!
I'm Superfan Han, one of the Superfan Hans, and today I am joined by
Superfan Pip
and Superfan Jeremy.
I love that.
I almost wanted to say Jay because you said Pip instead of Pippa, and I wanted to be like Jay.
Well, we don't have Sam with us today, and usually Sam, Han, and Pip we've got one syllable things going on. We need to get a one syllable name for you.
Okay, so should it be Jay? Should it be Jay?
Could be Jay.
Okay, Superfan Ham. I'm about to say Ham. Han, Pip, and Jay.
That works.
Sounds like PB and J almost.
Oh my God, I love it. It's like our Superfan alter egos. Like we're kind of superheroes,
Exactly.
and our superpower is being really obsessed with No Small Roles.
Done. Love it.
So we're doing, as you said, we're missing Sam today. Boo. Sorry, Sam. And the other Superfan Han. But I think we've established that if we get into a room together, it's going to be the apocalypse.
Both
and
spontaneously combust.
Yep, and we're already close enough to do an apocalypse, I think, in general.
Yes.
So maybe let's not tempt fate.
Let us save us all.
Yeah. So we're going to do a slightly shorter one today as well. We're going to do episodes 58, 59, and 60. Not our usual 4.
Yeah.
And then I think there's going to be another one with another 3 coming out pretty soon.
Yes.
So
What a time to be alive.
almost like a 6-pack of Superfan episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll jump right in with episode 58
Yeah,
unless
please
anybody's
Please do.
got some hot goss to share.
I was going to say, when you were talking about alter egos, it reminded me of a thing that I did in a game where there was this society that was like obsessed with like fae stuff. And they all had ridiculous alter egos that they used specific. There was like a bunch of rich people in this club, and they all gave themselves like weird fae alter egos. And when the players showed up, they had to be given alter egos as well that they only used in the Grisante Fellowship is the name of it. And it was
Oh my God,
that's what it
amazing.
reminds me of.
That sounds so fun.
I struggle with names at the best of times, so I find that epically confusing, but I love it.
Yeah.
I'm about to start DMing for fun the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and I'm excited for all the fae trickery. It's going to be good, but every character has like 5 names, and I'm like, I'm going to need a really good tracker in front of me, like all the post-it notes being like, this character is also called these other things. Do not forget.
I mean, some of the No Small Roles characters have got quite a few names as well, to be fair.
Oh my God, they do.
How many does Gwen have? Is it only 2 at this point, or more?
I think we suspect 2, but there could be more lurking in there.
Yeah. I found the list of some of these names. We never got their actual names for most of them.
Yeah.
So that we got Charlotte Frosty Gem, Bane Moonfig, Zephyr Bumble Shadow, Nyx Grey Bloom,
I love it.
Bramble Bubble Leaf, Ginkgo Carrot Bay, and Dew Turtle Frost.
I love the fae stuff because it's just an excuse to be so whimsical and so silly. It's great.
Yeah, it's good times.
Although what's not whimsical and silly was episode 58.
No, it was not.
Silent
Segue.
Spectre. So this episode picked up right after the attack on Timon Prevost. And Enkidu had just like punched the soul out of a dude, which was a thing that Enkidu decided to do. One of Enkidu's impulsive decisions, sort of trademark.
Sometimes you just gotta punch the soul out of a guy.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just like, I got to do it.
Yeah. Dark, but necessary.
So I think last time in Superfan Chats we were talking about, is it Spirit Jar or what was the...
Magic Jar.
No, it's a different one.
Oh, Magic Jar. Magic Jar is where your soul gets stored in an item. I think
Yes.
I forget what his ability was. It's a Cursed Spectre, I think.
That's the one.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he put his Hexblade's curse on somebody. When they die, he gets to keep their
Yes, he gets to keep their soul. And we were talking about how you get the soul, but it doesn't have any useful information, or when you're sort of following rules as written, it doesn't have any like useful information. But David being a fun homebrewy type DM and the cast being super creative means that sometimes these things go in directions we don't expect for our delight. And Enkidu managed to circumvent the fact that this spectre can't talk by remembering that he picked up some parchment and a pencil
Yeah.
literally earlier that day in the pub and got it to write down a whole bunch of really important information. So we find out about Havoc, this other force or faction that is sometimes working with the Hex, sometimes not, who are the ones who caused the attack. We learn that they're not really up for having any kind of person on the throne. Their sole mission seems to be to just sow chaos, which I can get behind. As we've established, we love chaos. And we also find out that who Rings is, the guy taking the shipment. So someone called Pellegrini, and where they are and what they're doing. And they're based, the people who did the attack and are based in a house on Sallow Street, number 16. And honestly, the whole cast worked really, really hard to get this information out of the Spectre. Like, David does a really amazing job of being extremely evasive. And then something that Gwen points out, which then happens, is she's like, oh, when you release it, what if it just goes back into its body and gets resurrected? And then they know that they're after us. And that's literally what happens as soon as Enkidu releases it. So now they have a member of Havoc who has a lot of information about them and knows they've given them a lot of information kind of out there, which is a bit unnerving.
Knows most of their names, knows exactly what they look like.
Yep.
Knows they can punch a soul out of a dude.
Yeah, like knows a lot of it, like, knows what their powers are.
Knows they're really interested in the fight for the monarchy, knows that they're probably on Timon Prevos's side. Like, for an enemy, they have a very large amount of information about them, which I think is probably not gonna turn out great.
No.
It's definitely adding like another layer of unease to this multi-layered campaign that David is building. Like, this string is now connected over here on the murder wall. It's like turning into a big web. So then after that, they decide they're going to go talk to Timon Prevos. So Juna uses her sending to get in touch, and they go to a house in Plumebridge.
Yes.
And I've forgotten Derominet House.
Derominet, that's it.
Yes, that's it. Derominet House in Plumebridge to go talk to Timon Prevos. And Gwen basically just rows them there down the river, the River Plume, to the bridge. Hence Plume Bridge, which I thought was a lovely, again, the world building in this campaign is just amazing. And if you're on Patreon and get to see some of the maps, what a treat. I mean, David's world building skills, I'm in awe, to be honest. Like, I don't think I have the patience to build cities like that.
Did he say whether he uses a generator or did he just draw it all by hand?
I have a feeling that he creates it all.
I think the majority of it comes from him.
From his own brain.
Word etymologies and sort of.
Wow.
I know. I really feel like whenever I see his work, I'm always like, oh, I just Google city generator and just plug in some stuff. Oh, I feel lazy.
This man's got a wife and a child. How does he have time for that?
And a full-time job.
Yes.
That isn't D&D. How does he do that? So they get there, and Kasula's there, Timon Prevos is there, and a guy called Quince is there, who they find out is the new Lord of Tillisham.
Yes.
And again, kind of upending what we sort of thought about this guy. He's like, oh, I'm the new Lord of Tillisham, but actually I don't really care about Tillisham. I've installed a council of people, and Jenny is on the council.
Yes.
So they have a chat about Jenny being on the council, which is great.
I don't think they'd have had any choice.
So yeah, I've installed a council. They can do what they want. You know, the locals should run their local area because I don't know anything about it. And I was like, I like this. This is weird.
Yeah.
I like this guy. He sounds reasonable. Prevos is very adamant that he's going to keep going out and showing his face despite the attacks, and is very much like trying to get the people on his side. And we also find out a lot more about the sort of fight for the claim to the throne, and that it's kind of weirdly complicated. So there's this whole situation where Timon Prevost has a really good claim, but the steward is refusing to test his blood to prove that he is a descendant of the previous king. Whereas Berian doesn't have such a strong claim, but because of the refusal to test, it's more of a fight than it feels like it should be. So there's something weird going on there with the steward. We also learn that the steward doesn't like Berian. So it kind of is like a big question as to like, why is this happening in the first place?
Yeah.
Unclear. So I guess I kind of feel like this episode was really split into two parts. The first part where they're sort of gathering this information about Havoc and Sallow 16 and all that. And then the second part where they're sort of delivering all this information to Timon Prevost and kind of forging alliances and trying to figure out what to do. And Kidu also lets slip that Erida told him he's got royal blood, which is like, wait, what? Maybe I wasn't paying attention in earlier episodes and that's come out before, but I was like, hang on a second, what? he's got royal, what? I just thought he had a royal person in his brain.
Well,
that was a ghost, one of the ghosts in his brain. Apparently not. Apparently there's something else going on there. And we also had a little bit more interaction between Gwen and Kasula, which was really interesting and start setting up some really lovely stuff for the coming episodes. And I feel like all the characters really had like really great moments in this episode. Like everybody had something they kind of helped out with or kind of, Gaius asked the Spectre about the Hex and whether he knew...
and about his siblings.
And whether his siblings were around. And it was confirmed that his siblings are a part of the Hex and Gaius is like freaking out. And then there was some like lovely Gaius and Juna bonding, which was super cute. And yeah, I think Orin stayed pretty quiet, but I get the sense that there's a lot going on sort of in terms of connecting the dots.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really interesting episode. I think as a companion to the previous episode, which was like really fast paced and like action packed, it was really nice to then get all this like super information download.
Yes.
And really get to start connecting some bits and pieces about like the wider political landscape and also like hearing about, I feel like there's this new faction in a way that has now appeared. So
in the
because
Children
we knew
of
about the
Havoc.
Hex. Yeah, exactly. We knew about the Hex before and now there's the Children of Havoc and it's like, there's not just one sort of criminal element. There are maybe competing ones and that's really cool.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that, you would expect maybe with kind of gang warfare and things that they would maybe almost... The expectation would be that they would be rival factions, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. They seem to have different aims and different goals. They seem to be like operating out of the same sort of city, but they don't seem to be at war with each other.
Yeah.
Which I find quite interesting.
And they asked the Spectre like, do you work with the Hex? And the Spectre kind of wrote down sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes me think that there is some connection maybe in the leadership of the two groups.
Yes.
Either that they are currently connected or that they used to be connected. Because I'm just imagining like, surely if you are two factions who are both operating independently in the same space, if you run into each other, but both of you are like straight up anarchic. Well, I don't know if I would call the Hex anarchists necessarily, but the Children of Havoc are certainly,
definitely
an anarchist organization. I would imagine that coming into contact with another organization would typically result in conflict rather than cooperation.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that either the leadership decided to work together or they already knew each other. And so I really like the idea that there are multiple factions. I think in a real world scenario, you would have a bunch of different groups who would be vying for power in a situation like this.
Yes.
So I think having it here makes it the world feel more lived in and real. And my big thing about this episode, as well as whenever we get into these kinds of topics, is like, dang, should we just give up the whole spoons thing and go deal with this Game of Thrones drama that's happening, like for the Succession? I feel like the prize ain't worth it. Let's go figure out.
It's probably been won by now. Let's be honest.
Come on, they've been doing this for how long?
I completely forgot about the spoons.
Yeah, I know. There must be some team who's got a way of getting from, town to town really quickly. 4 spoons in this one, 2 in this one, 2 in this one, 2 in this one. Done. Oh, I've done it in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like especially if you have polymorph
Yep.
or any spells like that, which our
Yep.
group is, they're high enough level to have polymorph.
Juna has polymorph.
Yeah.
She was a walrus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've lost. I feel like we've already lost the spoons. Let's just go figure out the whole thing with the king, and or maybe find like a therapist to work with Enkidu.
Yeah, the demonologist.
And figure out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. That was another cool thing is we got a bit more about like his actual goals are pulling him towards what are they called? The hills.
Mm-hmm.
The Philosian hills. I wanted to both say Fomorian, which is not that. No,
the
that
femoral
is
hills.
Feywild Underdark Fomorians. Or I wanted to say Fallopian, which is also what the cast want to call them.
Yep.
No, the Philosian hills. And then, but it says he said Erida's prime directive is pulling him south, which is kind of weird. So there's a conflict, like literally within.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's multiple conflicts inside Enkidu. Like you say, he definitely needs a therapist.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Part of me is like, guys, let's pause what we're doing with all this stuff, and we are going to track down the most brilliant arcanist or artificer, somebody who can take up Enkidu apart, look at him, and figure out what's going on. And like
what has happened?
Yes, and don't tell Enkidu. Not that we don't like Enkidu, but I don't think he has any choice but to have Erida potentially go through his memory. So just don't tell him what you're doing. Put him in a bag of holding. He'll live.
Yeah, he will.
He would as well.
God.
Yeah, just they really should be taking advantage of the fact that he can't breathe more often. Just to, if they need to sneak in anywhere, he climbs into the bag of holding. Yeah. They just take him in, and then like he just pops
great.
out.
Just chuck him in a hole. It's fine. Yeah, this was a really good episode for all the lore drops, but also the personal lore, like all the stuff with Gwen, and I know we've had a lot of Juna backstory as well, and I'm really curious to see how this ties in with the petals and the strings, and then obviously I also wanted, I really wanted that sense of like, okay, fuck the spoons, like there's also Gaius's family around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, can we figure this out? Because I'm still convinced there's a bunch of stuff Gaius isn't telling them, because no way he's that on it. I still feel like there's something going on in there.
Juna does some like detect thoughts on him while he's asleep. Something like that. Hold him down.
Detect dreams.
Whilst inside the zone of truth.
Yeah.
And also all that, Orin's keeping his cards close to the chest as well. You know, there's all kinds of stuff about, you know, him and the Wingthrups and the Woden Isles and the people he knows and
how old he is. Do we still not know how old he is? And who that captain was?
Yes.
He's so mysterious. There's so many threads that are just like kind of running at the same time, and the whole group is like, but what about the spoons?
Yeah. Priorities, guys.
Yes. At the time of recording this, we're on episode 63, right?
Yeah.
They're playing the longest of long games right now, because there are so many plot lines. I don't know if you can wrap this up before episode 100.
Yeah.
Realistically, like, because each of these could theoretically have another 4 to 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Like each of these mysteries, 4 to 5 episodes plus, just dealing with this, and all the other stuff are like, whew, we're in this for the long haul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I really thought in this episode they were going to at least like wrap up some of the Berrien stuff, because they were like, oh, we have proof he's drugging people. And then they looked at their proof and it was bad.
Yeah. Inconclusive.
Brevos was like, this proves
Nothing. Nope.
I believe you that he's doing it, but we can't use this random note that says something about Alec Ludder. Like that doesn't give me anything. It doesn't say like, yes, I agree to have the shipment of frosting put into the cupcakes for all my followers. Like it's not a smoking crossbow.
Yeah, smoking crossbow.
Love it.
It's amazing.
So yeah, I really thought that was gonna come to something, but it also didn't. So then another thread that's just like you say, the longest of long games.
So I got a full, if I was wearing a hat, I would tip it to Baby David and the cast. Baby David, obviously, because he's the ringmaster who has to keep all of these things going and be like, it's been enough time since we touched on that. Let's go back and advance this storyline a bit longer. And then also the cast, who has to keep track as well of like, when we've gone back to this, it's like, oh yes, and now I have to be invested in this storyline that the last time we recorded an episode for this was last year.
Yeah. And it's all right for us. We can go back and listen to them as many times as we want, but they have to do it in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how many of them re-listen to the episodes that have come out or that they have recordings of before they play again, just to like try and remember some stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to offer a big keg of Twain Tide tea to Baby David and the whole cast for their efforts.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's good stuff.
Well, do you want to talk about episode 59?
Yeah, let's move on to Sallow 16.
Yes. So this episode was packed with a lot of emotion and events, but in terms of actual specific things that happened, not that many things actually happened. So they've agreed that they're gonna go try and find the Children of Havoc. They have Quince go out and try and find Arcanist Zaravir Tarek to try and get her help. Which, by the way, this was the point at which it started to hit me. Not having spellings for some of these names, I am absolutely taking swings at some of the. The Zaravir Tarek could be spelled so many ways.
Oh, I know.
It also speaks to the phonetic inconsistency of English. But anyway, they plan. They plan to rendezvous closer to the hideout, which is, of course, Sallow 16. Kasula had pointed out Sallow 16 for them on a map. They scouted the whole area out with Ruana. Okay, this is a full-on courtyard of apartment buildings. Great. Innocent bystanders. That's what we love to see. The children were either in the top floor or the basement. So we got to pick one option. Gwen, as they were about to go in, I believe, got a message from Zaravir saying that the Arcanists had been removed from the job mysteriously and abruptly, and that other Arcanists were on their way. So you guys got to get this thing done ASAP. Now things are starting to look real suspicious. The party's like, cool, let's do it. They go for the basement. They get stuck with a locked door. Of course, the bane of every D&D group.
Doors.
Yes. They finally make their way through the door, and then they find Pellegri, a name that reminds me of both pedigree and Pelennor.
And Pelican.
And Pelican, yes. And they find Pellegri packing up his storeroom, getting ready to be teleported away. But they're like, we gotta, and they realize there's all these arcane defenses. There's all these wards placed that they can't get any closer. So they literally just talk to the guy and they're trying to find information. Of course, he's just like, I have no reason to give you any information beyond what and finally Gwen and Guy are like, okay, we've had enough of this. We are going to try and pincer move this guy. Yeah. Let's try and sneak around to a different location. And this is where I got, things get a little bit hazy for me. So Enkidu reaches out to Erida, and I'm not sure if he reaches out to her, which triggers her sending who we eventually find out is the Arcanist Exissa Wingthrup, or if Exissa was already on the way and Enkidu just happened to connect to Erida in time for like right before Exissa showed up.
Yeah.
But regardless, the Arcanist Exissa Wingthrup appears with this crack team of like the SEAL Team 6 of elite mages, like the most powerful characters we've seen in this series, short of maybe Crawl, show up. They immediately incapacitate Pellegrini. They get rid of all of the wards in an instant, just jump in, take the guy down, and then just tell the party to leave. Congratulations, we've done this. We're the special forces. You guys, the regular old like transportation crew can leave.
Oh my God, it's like the local cops being upstaged by a SWAT team.
Yes.
Yeah. The FBI.
Yeah. Or like the SAS coming in and sending out like the normal military forces. Or if you're American, the Green Berets or Army Rangers showing up and just sending everybody home. But they of course, no one likes this. Number one thing for any D&D party is people hate to lose. If your plan depends on the team losing, It is not a good plan because players hate to lose and will do anything to try and stop from losing, which is what happens here. Guy attempts to use his ring of suggestion to force Excessa Wingthrup to give him answers. She does indeed fail the save, but unfortunately, they realize what he was doing and just stab through his hand, pin it to a wall, take the ring. Again, possibly, is that the most directly like gruesome injury that has taken place, at least to one of the cast members?
I guess so, apart from losing Enkidu, but
Yeah, it
True.
seems like it in terms of like quite graphically described.
Yeah.
Like outside of like a regular old fight where stuff happens and fireballs are thrown.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that feels much more like a direct torture kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's because it's so specific. Like usually it's like, oh, you get slashed.
Yeah.
It's not like they slash you in this specific part of the body and this, but it's like, ooh, stabbed through the hand. That's one of those
I know,
things.
and there's something about it being pinned to the wall as well. Like,
Yeah, like it went all the way through.
oh, and he's a bard.
I was going to say he's a
Yeah.
musician.
His hands.
No good.
Ooh.
They took his ring.
Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, there was basically a standoff where the party was just like, and the Arcanists were like, you ought to leave, is what you ought to do.
They got
And
two questions out of it.
oh, that's true. Yes, so at least we got a little bit, but we
They
still
hadn't really thought the questions through.
no. They did not get anything really that they wanted. The episode ended, I feel, with no one happy but the Arcanists. Specifically, Excessa Wingthrup seemed to be the only person who was even mildly pleased.
Yeah.
And the party left full Charlie Brown mode, head hanging, the sad Christmas time is here playing on the piano. And that's how the episode ended.
Oh, bless them. It was one of those situations where they were like, haha, a really important NPC that we definitely have questions for. What are the questions?
Yeah.
What do we do? Oh, it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in that situation, that would totally happen, wouldn't it? Your brain
Yeah.
would just go absolutely dead and you'd be like, well, I know, I would be just not be able to think of anything that I would have wanted to have thought of until the moment I left. But it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the level of like violence and power that was displayed was so abrupt and shocking that like most people would just be like,
Yeah.
because they're still a dude with his hand pinned to a wall.
Yeah.
And you just, can he have his hand back?
Yeah. Are you gonna let him go? Are you gonna Personally, I think I as a listener had really underestimated the Arcanists. Like I knew they were a powerful group of people.
Yeah.
But I really hadn't considered the level of power that they were wielding and just how dangerous they could be.
Sure.
Because I don't know, I was like, oh, they're these like important wizardy people. Like, how strong can they be? It's an adventuring party. Like, oh, they're not going to be that dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, no, these are people you do not want to mess with, at least until level 15.
Yeah. Yeah. Like these, our characters are not low level. What are they, level 9 now?
Yeah, they're getting pretty tough.
They leveled up at the start of this episode, I think, didn't they?
Yeah. They're level 8 or 9, I think.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's pretty strong. You got up to
Yeah.
5th level spells. And they just got washed.
Yeah.
I never got the impression that, like, granted, this is not the most high damage party, but still, I did not get the impression that they would even be able to take down a single Arcanist before things immediately turned against them.
Yeah. And that also bodes in a very scary way really badly in terms of the Wingthrups, because Excessive Wingthrup is an Arcanist, and then we also know about like the Golem army that is still being built.
Yeah.
That didn't stop.
Yep.
There's a whole, and Erida's
coming.
super powerful. The supercomputer, that is also there. Like, there's a lot of really scary high level stuff that is going on that they have been clearly shown that the party is just not equipped to tackle yet.
Yeah.
It is just not possible.
Which is a great way of making the world feel larger as well. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff happening over there that is still going. But it's also another thing to be like, hey, as strong as you guys are, you're really pitiful compared to these people.
Yeah. And it's really interesting seeing that in comparison to like the Hex and the Children of Havoc, where that kind of feels more on their level, where they can kind of compete with these guys, where it's like, okay, it's a tough fight, but they can like blow up their hideout or, you know, kind of take them down in a fight as long as they're not behind magical wards.
Yeah.
Whereas suddenly, like you say, you come up against this other force and it's like, oh, there is a real hierarchy and there are people in this world who are more powerful. And it suddenly, like you say, it really widens the scope in a really instantaneous and quite dramatic way. It was really intense.
Yeah. It also gives you an idea of what the Children and the Hex are up against.
Yeah.
It's a real Rebels Empire feel. Like we just saw like a Grand Moff appear and just show just how much stronger the Empire is compared to the Rebel forces. And it's like, oh, dang. Oh, no. Okay. It's rough out here for everybody. It explains why these groups are so hardcore. Because that's what you're up against. These people showed up. They incapacitated this man in a single round.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I get all the secrecy now as well. You have to be really careful.
Yeah.
I think what I found surprising as well was that when they first got through the arcane door and then Pellegrini said, oh, don't come any closer, and they were having a chat, he seemed so secure behind that arcane, like the pillars with the runes on them. And it's almost like he didn't expect the Arcanists to come busting in and just take it down in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder how much of a dealing the Children of Havoc have even had with the Arcanists up to that point. Or is it all just a play? Although no, he lost an arm, didn't he, to be fair?
Didn't they also take his ring, like his resurrection?
Yeah, he had one single ring left on his finger.
Yeah.
And they just took his whole arm off, or took his whole hand off.
Oh my God.
Because Enkidu was trying to get the hand.
Yes. But it had fallen near the Arcanists, so he wasn't able to get over there. It feels like this man didn't think, as many wards as he put in place, it seems like he truly did not count on this as a possibility. Yeah. And the last ward should have been something that would blow him up if somebody got too close. And then the ring would just bring him back, rather than have him get captured and, I guess, tortured. We'll see what happens to him in the end. I don't know. But
because we know from the last episode that they can teleport bodies away and resurrect them as well. So that, like you say, that should have been the thing that happened, is if he went down, he would have just been immediately teleported somewhere else to be either be resurrected or like be at very low health and kind of, you know, just not there. But yeah, that seemed, like you say, it seems like a real surprise to everyone that he got captured.
Yeah. Well, I guess with the idea of, I mean, it makes sense that he wasn't expecting the Arcanists then, because no one expected these Arcanists. The other Arcanists didn't expect these Arcanists. So who is it? Who's the one pulling the strings?
And it makes me wonder as well, like within the Arcanists, you know, there's that whole sense that like, well, we know from ages ago that there's something weird going on with the Arcanists. There's some kind of corruption or double crossing happening. And I was wondering, like, are some of the Arcanists actually hiring the Children of Havoc to cause disruption? And I know there was extreme violence happening here, but was that all an illusion?
Oh.
Was it like a fake, like double cross kind of situation? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I feel like it could be anything with David's brain.
Yeah.
They could have cast regeneration on him immediately after they left. Maybe that was why they kept wanting them to leave, is so this man doesn't bleed out on the ground behind them and they can just stick the arm back on.
We're not going to be able to bring him back. Get out of here, guys.
I didn't bring the diamonds. Get
I
out.
wouldn't put it past a Wingthrup, to be honest. You know, they could do anything. I don't trust anyone.
Maybe Pellegrini is a Wingthrup.
Oh my God. Maybe he's one of the Wingthrup soldiers like Enkidu.
Oh, how deep does the Wingthrup wabbit hole go?
It feels like with David, anything could be possible. There could be any kind of twist or connection. I feel like he's just got so many ideas.
We've spent so much time just talking about, just asking questions. Like every episode is like, what's going on?
What if?
Yeah, which I guess brings us to episode 60.
Episode 60. So this is very aptly titled Reflection. And again, it feels like an episode of two halves again, where you've got the party just feeling absolutely dejected at the beginning of it, where this episode before it. Just everything has not gone the way they wanted it to. And the first thing that happens is Enkidu just flies off. He just disappears. He needs some time to himself, doesn't want to be around the party, and he's just off. He just goes. So they quickly realise that maybe they need somebody to try and follow him. Juna casts Fly on Guy, and they try and follow him, but they lose him in the clouds. Meanwhile, Orin and Gwen decide they're going to head back to Plumebridge. They go via the Arcanists Consortium just to have a little sneaky look around, a little sneaky peek. Enkidu lands in the Vale and has a little look around the Lord's Assembly. He has a little short rest, and he also does an inside check and rolls an 8, and then has a conversation with, this is Hina, isn't it? The tiefling. Mm-hmm. And I really love every time he does an inside check, because we get just a word or two that makes us go, ooh, let's hear more about that. And the thing he mentions, which I don't know how much we've heard about, I'm going to throw it over to you guys because maybe I'm just misremembering things, but he mentions the words, the Fields of Valor. Now, is that where maybe he had the fight with Alcibiades? That's what I'm wondering.
I don't remember hearing that before, but then my memory is sometimes hazy.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard him say it before either.
No, I don't think he specifically named it. So I wondered what the connection is there. Between them, they have a little discussion about whether Gilgamesh should even be on the throne. And actually, Hina has reservations about this. And Enkidu also wonders whether the mission from the Wingthrups is a trap. Meanwhile, the rest of the party arrive back at Plumebridge. And there's a really, really, really funny scene with Gwen and Kasula, where Kasula invites Gwen to go and warm down in the garden. And Gwen's desperately trying to say sorry to Kasula, but she's stubborn. And you can so relate to this, can't you? Between like a mother figure and a kind of adolescentish child. And yeah, they sort of exchange blows a little bit, and that's brilliant. I love it. And eventually she does say sorry, and they clear the air between them, and that was just a really beautiful moment, which I think Gwen has been almost like waiting for that moment since the very beginning, of having this burden on her chest of letting the family down, and all of a sudden, you know, the apology is given, the apology is accepted, and it feels like she can almost move on. So that's lovely.
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that Kasula was Gwen's stepmom before now? Because if we did know that, I blanked it. I was like, wait, what?
I think I assumed because her mother was Orcish, and we knew that Kasula wasn't Orcish.
I just missed the also married to Gwen's dad and is her mentor as well. Like I completely missed that when it was earlier. Yeah. I just thought she was like her mentor, like training, you know, her personal trainer, basically.
I think maybe that was what it was first, and then perhaps the marriage came later. That's the impression that I've had in my head, but maybe I've just created a story around what I want it to be.
It seems that Gwen's family has a thing for falling for people that they hire to do unrelated tasks.
Yes. Present company included.
So true.
Yes, like father, like daughter, I guess.
Yeah, and then the other interesting bit about this episode was whilst Gwen is out with Kasula, the rest of the party are in the kitchen eating some sandwiches, and Orin finds a very interesting book. And this is a book about the lineages and kings and their spouses of Dravane, and there's a lot of information. But the important thing is that it has all of the sort of kings. I don't know if we have queens in this world. Do we have queens? Or I think it may be just kings.
I've heard of a queen.
Kings and their spouses. And the King Hairish, who was the last king who has recently died, who Enkidu was at the palace with, died not long after Enkidu left, only 3 months or so. He had no spouses, but looking back through this book, all of the kings died or succumbed to some kind of disease or sickness of the mind. And that was what they gleaned, that there's some kind of pattern going back all the way through, right back to Rumaf Tarabor, where all of these kings, succumbed to some kind of mental illness. And it was fatal.
Did this not feel like such a Game of Thrones Ned
Yes.
Stark season 1 situation
Very
where
much
he's going
so.
through black of hair. Oh. It's just so
yeah.
oh my God.
And the Targaryen Mad King, that whole side of it as well.
Yeah.
So that makes us wonder whether actually the steward is doing Prevost a favour by keeping him away from the throne, and actually maybe there's something more sinister going on with that. And it also makes me question about Kral.
Yes, I was literally about to say, this feels like it's got Kral all over it.
And maybe Kral was wronged, and that actually he knew that this was coming for Rumath, and his divination magic looking down all of the strings was to try and prevent it. And then he ended up catching whatever sickness it was himself. That's my new little theory.
I also do have a little bit of a thought, though. What if Enkidu's mental situation is related to this? Because isn't the possibility is that Gilgamesh may be in some way connected to the royal family?
Yep.
What
Enkidu
if
may be connected.
What if there is no Gilgamesh? What if there has only been an Enkidu?
Right.
And
Yes,
Enkidu
this is what you
is
said
actually
before.
and Enkidu is
I'm so on board with this theory.
and the mental illness is like him essentially having alternate personalities that begin to appear in his mind. And maybe there's something like magical about it, that these are like, this is some kind of a curse, or even like presences, like spirits that are being passed down from like family member to family member.
We did have a talk, like it was like ages ago, with the whole, I think it was around the Erida arc, about like where did these people inside Enkidu go, and we sort of talked a little bit about like dissociative identity disorder and like how, you know, in our world, not the fantasy world, you know, that is usually caused by some extreme trauma. So the mind essentially fragments, and these sort of alternate personalities come in to protect the self in order to survive horrific trauma. And there's something about Enkidu's story that really says that to me, that there was some kind of overwhelming horrific trauma that happened in the fight with Alcibiades, and his personality splintered. And so he is not, like you say, there is no Gilgamesh. They're all Enkidu, and Enkidu is all of them, and they're all inside him, and it's just him. And maybe they're based off some friends he has had, or maybe they've just been imaginary friends he's had his whole life that he's never realized are imaginary. And so it's, I'm fully on board with this theory.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
This reminds me of there was a really, really hugely acclaimed production of the Oresteia. It was a new adaptation. It's a trilogy of Greek plays, if you're not familiar, done by Robert Icke, or Ike. I've never known how to pronounce that guy's last name. But it was the one that he won his first Olivier Award for Best Director. And he also had, it was like a new adaptation that he made. And in this version, normally you have the parents are Agamemnon and Clytemnestra, and then they have three kids, Iphigenia, Electra, and Orestes. Iphigenia is killed before the story starts, and then later on Electra and Orestes have various interactions and various pivotal things that they do. But in this version, it was revealed that Electra never actually existed and was an alternate personality that Orestes created to get over the trauma of his mother killing his father, and his father killing his sister. And that when Electra starts encouraging him to kill his mother, it's like the part of him that was formed from that trauma telling him to get revenge for the trauma that was inflicted upon his family. And
I wish I'd seen that.
Yes, it was
that
really,
sounds like
really good.
such an awesome interpretation.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. But it reminds me of this, where like perhaps this is some sort of trauma that Enkidu suffered. Perhaps Enkidu is even like not a. Perhaps he was, if we're saying he's the true heir, maybe it's like a, for the Game of Thrones comparisons, look, the show's already out. Maybe it's like a Jon Snow situation, where he should have been the next one in line for the throne. But
and he hints that, doesn't he? Because he says he grew up in a brothel with a sex worker who kind of, I think he said his mum was a sex worker, or he was looked after by a sex worker.
Yep.
But then there's the insinuation that his dad is the king.
Yeah. What if all of these other what if Gilgamesh is what his name actually should be?
Right? Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It all makes sense.
It's all making sense now.
I'm gonna message Daryl after this and be like, I called it, bro, and send him my whole theory.
All the super fans have got your number.
Yeah, I'm sending him a message detailing all my theories now.
When they were in the room at the Wingthrup workshop, when all the names first came out, were any of those 5 in his head? Did any of those names actually get listed?
I don't think so.
No, because I think Enkidu they didn't have Enkidu there asking about the names because he was that was when they were trying to access him.
It was right at the beginning, I think.
Codex, wasn't it?
I may be wrong. I'll have to go back and check.
Remember. Yeah, we've got to re-listen to that bit. Which came first?
Yeah.
I was also wondering as well with this like disease of the mind thing, whether there's something to do with the mirrors, because when they went down and saw the mirrors, they're like different mirrors. Obviously one of them is Kral's, one of them is this like thing that was smashing against it, and some of them were scratched out saying like do not trust. And if they're mirrors that connect all these different people, and one of them was like Kral's connection to Rumath Tarabor, for example, is there something about the mirrors that is corrupting that sort of is creating the disease of the mind sort of through the timeline? And that's part of it as well. It's possible. I don't know.
I also wondered whether it was similar to what we have, again, real world, with the whole haemophilia thing being passed through the Brit. I don't know if it's British or German. My history is appalling.
It was through basically all of Europe.
Yeah, right? The royal lineages passing down haemophilia. I wonder whether it was a similar idea with this, and that's why they're trying to get someone not directly from the bloodline in order to kind of eradicate this.
Because they're all
disease.
Inbred.
I try not to say it, but yeah.
They're trying to introduce some new blood into the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Just diversify
the
gene pool. Just a little bit.
Trying to get rid of that Habsburg jaw.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Just make it a little bit healthier.
So yeah, it was an episode of a lot of information, a lot of details, and that just spurned a whole load more questions.
Yeah,
as it always does.
Yeah. Favorite moments from this set of 3?
I would like to pick, because it was very silly and very inconsequential, but I really enjoyed it. There was a moment in that episode 60, where Oren and Gwen discussed cake. Just throwing back to Gwen going, I really want some cake, and Oren going, yeah, and then Gwen saying, oh, we could have a bit of frosting as well. And it was just lovely to have a light-hearted moment after all of the shit that went down in episode 59. It was nice to have a little light-hearted moment, and I really enjoy the chemistry between Gwen and Oren. There's like that big sister, little brother kind of vibe, even though I guess they're similar age, or maybe even Oren's a bit older.
Oren's 78.
Yeah.
Is Oren secretly 200?
Yeah.
But that was my favourite little moment. I really enjoyed that little interaction.
So sweet.
I would say the part where my favorite part is probably when the Arcanist showed up and then just immediately cleaned house. And it's like, oh no. There was like a genuine like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
Oh, this is that, like, it is, as obviously it was more violent than typical for the show, but I was like, whoa, I'm genuinely shocked at how this went. Not only because like this is our heroes just getting spanked, but like this is a lot more serious than even the serious stuff usually feels. I really liked that. Yeah, it added a new sense of scale.
Yeah, it's just like a whole other dimension to the entire podcast.
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna have to choose Gwen and Kasula, because it was so different to what I was expecting. I think like because of the way Gwen has experienced her leaving, I think we only saw the event through her experience and then meeting up with Dwayne, and that kind of thing, and kind of little tidbits that June has thrown out there. So I really got the sense that her family were kind of like on the side of the DeBarges, and they'd be really angry, and she didn't want to contact them in case, they'd be really pissed at her and try and get her to come home. And, there was like a big retribution waiting for her. And actually,
it was fine.
They're really kind of proud of her.
Yeah.
Like Kasula's like, no, you did what you wanted to do. Good for you, kind of almost in a way, which is like, it just really threw me in such a lovely way where I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And it was just like a really lovely, like a very Gwen moment of of going in and that stubbornness and like being like, I'm not going to apologize, but also I really respect Kasula like so much, and like it just felt really lovely to listen to. I really enjoyed it, that like character development. It was really nice.
That's a good choice.
Yeah. Oh,
I have one last question.
Yeah.
When do you guys think Dwayne is going to show up again?
oh my god, soon,
Are
please.
you
I
asking
really hope
because
so.
you know, or are you asking because...
I'm literally asking like, wow, based on what's happening on the story and then
Yeah.
what happened in the Dwayne Fabulosa side thing, I'm really interested to hear when their paths cross again.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it'd be so cool.
And it's a different Dwayne now as well, actually.
It's true. Yeah, he's undergone some real changes.
Yeah.
He can't
Yeah,
lie
big
anymore.
growth.
Oh no. It's such a big part of his identity.
What's he gonna do? He's gonna have to start telling the truth.
Oh, he's just gonna have to start making the truth sound really good.
Yeah, I mean, he can't lie, but he can still embellish.
Yes, and he can always just give selective truths. But like,
That's true.
I imagine he would not show up until post Spoons. So
Yeah.
whenever that happens.
Oh my god, that's never. This is just gonna keep going forever. No, Jeremy, don't say
How
that.
many
We'll never
spoons do
see
they
you
have?
again.
How many do they
like
need, and how many
6?
do they have?
They need 10.
10. They need 10. I think they've got like 6.
They have 6? Okay, in my head I'm like,
4,
did they get
6?
like
I
2?
don't know.
They're about halfway there. Yeah.
Maybe 4?
Get a move on.
I think every challenge they've done so far, they've been successful. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but how many have they done?
I can't remember.
3? There was the
Maybe.
tightrope
Yeah, there was-
one.
There was the count how many spoons on the tray one.
Yeah.
There was
Shoot the bag of stuff.
Okay,
yeah,
so that's 3.
and Gwen made
That's
a
3.
girlfriend.
Yeah. So I guess they have 6.
There's been 2. I think maybe there's been
I'm sure there've been more.
2 more.
Is the tightrope one the same one as the posts? Where they
Yeah,
had to
that
get
was the one. Yeah,
in
it
the
was
river?
the tightropes.
Yeah,
They were having.
yeah.
It was the balancing. Yeah, the balancing challenge.
God, maybe they've only got 3.
Well, do they get 2 from each one, or do they only get the 1?
No, they just get the
I'd
one.
love to see a spoon tracker.
Oh my God.
I'd love to just like have that
Yes.
like as a little marker
Yeah.
just on their website, like spoon tracker.
We need to suggest this in the Superfan chat chat so that we can get ourselves a spoon counter just so that we can know.
Yeah.
Because this is like the first season of Pokemon where it's like 100 and something episodes, and it's like how many? Like most of these episodes have nothing to do with getting badges. How many badges does Ash have now?
Yeah.
Oh, such a good reference. Well, if you want to join us in badgering David and the cast to get a spoon tracker, you can join the Discord, where we can just incessantly spam messages about like how many spoons have you got and seriously how long is this going to keep going on. Or if you want to have even more access and even more power, you could join the Patreon, where you get all kinds of cool behind the scenes stuff. Daryl's just started doing a segment only for patrons,
Yes.
which is Rambler's Rest, where he just chats to some people from the cast and kind of adjacent to the podcast. And you just get to have like listen to a lovely chat with Daryl. So that's going on.
I did one with him.
As well as,
I don't think it's been released yet, but I did one with him.
well, it's exclusively for patrons.
Yeah. So if you want to hear me chat with Daryl about all sorts of
Yay.
stuff,
Always.
I mean, yeah, we do.
yeah, go.
Of course we do.
Go check out the Patreon at some point.
Yeah.
It'll be up. I don't know when. but
And
it will.
there's other cool stuff as well. Like you get to vote on stuff that David puts into the world sometimes, and there's maps, and then you get pre-releases. It's really, really, I think it's worth it to support this podcast.
Definitely.
And all those subclasses he's made.
Oh yeah, you get all this homebrew stuff.
Yeah, the man's a subclass.
I have yet
machine.
to use it, and they're all really well made.
Mm-hmm.
Again, how does he do this? How does he have the time? He's got magic. I'm
Yeah.
convinced. Do you guys have anything you want to plug?
I don't know when this is coming out,
Soon.
but we got an actual play series on 3 Black Halflings. It's called Curse of the Spider Queen. It's Tales of Wagadu, the Curse of the Spider Queen. It's very, very good. It's sort of a distant sequel-ish to the first series that we did, the Cub and the Caterpillar, although you can listen to this without having listened to the Cub and the Caterpillar. And I think you'll have a different experience than someone who has, but it's not so built on that show that you're going to be like, what? Like it's got all new characters. The world has changed. It's set like over 100 years after the event of that show. So yeah, just go in and just check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Great stuff. Amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. This has been so fun. I can't wait to see you all again.
And we're
for more
under an hour.
Superfan chats. For now. Maybe that's our cue to sign off.
Quick sign
Bye,
off.
everyone. Bye. Goodbye. Not for now.
Are we going to do it? Are we going to do it?
We're going to do it.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Now.
We were all trying to listen to each other.